The Prime Minister, Dr. Barnabas Sibusiso Dlamini, together with cabinet ministers, held a breakfast meeting with the Swaziland Editors Forum, where editors from all media houses in the country get an opportunity to ask government of developments and things that are taking place in the country. A lot of questions were asked by editors, including a suggestion by one of the editors who alleged that there are a lot of problems in the country's judiciary. The Prime Minister, responding to the suggestions, said he will not say if there are problems or not in the judiciary, as they always try to separate the three arms of government so that they operate independently from each other. The Prime Minister clarified the infamous November 28 statement that it was in fact a chemotherapy to the cancer of the judiciary back then, as it was more about the separation of powers.
Last bese sihlukana khona ngokuthi nangabe kune cancer iqhamukapi uthi ke makhubu November 28 nabo ke la sihlukana khona ngoba nangabe kune cancer November 28 bokuyi chemotherapy bekwelashwa lokho bekubonakala ukuthi bonakele ikakhulu ngoba.
The Prime Minister explained the topical issue these days of the country's airline Swazi Airways, which government was in the process of reviving when they encountered challenges. The Premier explained the issue from when the decision to revive the airline was taken after consultations to where the issue is currently is. The Prime Minister stated that government has given the board of the Royal Swazi National Airways to do a liability assessment to see how government can recover the money that has been lost in the process of trying to revive the airline, and also do a needs assessment to determine whose services are still needed and whose services are no longer needed amongst those that had already been hired for the revival of the airline. He clarified that government has not taken a decision whether plans to revive the airline will proceed or not until they get the assessments from the board.
Project sisengefiki lapho singakaboni le liability assessment ne needs assessment lapho ke uhulumende atawusatha i-position. Kepha ke kwanyalo sisathithe asekume konke lokuqondzane nokuthi sifuna indiza lesitayi letaba commercial.
On the issue of unbundling the Swaziland Post and Telecommunications Corporation, SPTC, the Prime Minister started by clarifying that SPTC was formed through an act of parliament, and if they want to unbundle the company, they will have to go to parliament to be able to do that. The Premier made it clear that the idea of unbundling SPTC is there, but they are still far from that, and in the event it happens, employees of the company and all stakeholders will be informed in time. Dlamini said it does not mean that the company is dying, as there is still a lot that it can do to make money. He gave assurance to SPTC employees that government will support the company and it will not be liquidated.
Hulumende utamsekela ngeke nje kuvakale ukuthi soya liquidate SPTC, kepha ke nayo umnika i-challenge ukuthi akhe ama strategies, long term plans ukuthi naye a survive kule competition lesikhona ngaka communication.
The Prime Minister also addressed the issue of the finance circular, which has become a bone of contention in Parliament, in particular where it states that government will build a house for the Prime Minister when he leaves office. that it has been a norm since 1968 that when a new government takes over, they draw up a finance circular which stipulates the conditions of service for politicians. The Prime Minister says they did that when they took office in 2009, but parliamentarians were not happy with the circular and it was removed, replaced with a finance circular number 2 of 2010, which also became contentious during the People's Parliament, and it was again removed. Hence, His Majesty directed government to hire an independent consultant to look into the issue and come up with recommendations, which the consultant did and looked at what is happening in neighboring countries, hence the current circular. Dlamini said if anyone has a problem with the current finance circular, the only forum in which it can be challenged is at the People's Parliament, but they will have to first apologize to His Majesty before doing so. He reiterated that the circular will be implemented as is, no additions or reductions to any of the contents. Sibusiso Dlamini reporting for Swazi TV News, Zuluini.